In the winter of 1934, my grandmother Della stood at the meat counter of the general store in Tipton, Indiana, with a grease pencil tucked behind her ear and a folded slip of paper in her coat pocket. On that slip, in her own hand, she had already written the price of everything she meant to buy before she ever walked through the door. The butcher slid the pretty rib roast to the front of the case, the way they always did. Della looked straight past it, put her finger on the thick end of a thin flank, and walked out, paying 2 cents less on every pound for meat that fed more people. She spent 40 years never once buying the cut they wanted her to buy, and I have not bought it either. That store is not built to feed your family. It moves your money to its side of the counter. The dear cuts at eye level, the honest prices hidden at the bottom of the tag. So here are 25 forgotten pantry habits that cut the grocery bill in half, the way Della did it, with no freezer and no coupon. Stay for number 1, the habit that sets your bill before you spend a dime. Pull up a chair and hit subscribe. We start where the money starts, at the store, with the things Della did before she ever carried a bag home. Then we go down cellar, where she kept it. Number 25. Read the bottom of the tag, not the front. The store puts the big number right in front of your eyes, bold and easy. The honest number, the one that tells you what you are actually paying, is the little figure at the bottom corner of the shelf label, the cost per ounce or per pound. Lydia Maria Child wrote it plain in 1832 in a book you can still read for free today, The American Frugal Housewife. She said, "Do not let the cheapness of a thing tempt you to buy it." The temptation has not changed in almost 200 years. Only the shelf tag is new. Compare that little unit price across brands and across sizes, because a bigger box is not always cheaper by the ounce, and the store is counting on you to assume it is. The big number is the bait. The small number is the truth. Number 24. Look down and buy the store brand. The premium brands sit right at eye level, because eye level is buy level. They pay for that shelf. The better unit price is almost always one shelf down, near your knees, on the plain label. For the very same commodity goods, the sugar, the flour, the canned tomatoes, store brands run a good 20 to 25% below the national name. And that gap is not a fluke, it is routine, week after week. Della had no store brands to choose from, but she had the same instinct, which was to distrust anything the store worked too hard to put in front of her. If a package is fighting for your attention at eye level, it is fighting with your money. Number 23. Never buy the prettiest cut in the case. This is the one Della was doing in that cold open, and it is the heart of the whole thing. The butcher's case has always sorted itself into fashionable cuts and forgotten ones. The forgotten ones fed the family just as well and cost less on every single pound. Child named the exact cut in 1832, the thick part of a thin flank, and said it was the most profitable piece in the whole animal to buy. Not handsome, but thick meat with little bone and 2 cents less in the pound than the fancy pieces. The price gap has moved, but the rule is fixed. Less popular cuts, the flank, the chuck, the neck, the shank, still run 20 to 40% below the loin and the rib at the very same counter. Walk up to any counter today, price the chuck against the ribeye sitting right beside it. The chuck will feed the same table for close to half the money, and 2 or 3 hours at a low simmer makes it so tender that nobody at that table ever thinks to ask what it cost. That is the trade the whole case is built to hide from you. Handsome costs money. Della paid 2 cents less a pound and put 2 more plates on the table.
Number 22. Ask the butcher what is moving slowly this week. There is a conversation happening at that counter that most people never start. Ask what he has too much of, what is not selling, and that is the cut that gets marked down or handed over as soup bones. A bone the store would otherwise throw in the bin is a whole pot of soup you did not have to buy. There is still a real person behind most meat counters, and that person knows exactly what is about to be marked down before closing, and what he would rather move today than throw out tomorrow. Ask him late in the afternoon, when the case needs clearing, and you will hear about cuts that never made it onto any sign. Della's people never left a butcher counter without asking, because the slow sellers were the bargains, and a family that eats the slow sellers eats well for less all year long. The deal is not on the sign. The deal is in the question you were too shy to ask. Number 21. Buy the liver the butcher keeps out of sight. Every generation rediscovers the same prejudice. Liver is the offcut, the thing you serve when you have nothing better, and that snobbery is exactly why it has always sat cheapest in the case. Child put it flat in 1832. Liver is usually much despised, she wrote, but when well cooked it is very palatable, and it is the cheapest of all animal food. Soak the slices in a little milk to soften the flavour. Dredge them in flour, fry them in hot fat with an onion, and cook them through, no pink. Chicken livers are milder and often cheaper still, and a pound of them is a full supper. They called it the poor man's meat. Della called it the smart woman's supper, and she was right on both counts. Number 20. Feed 6 people on a rack of mutton. There is a cut called the rack, the neck and the few rib bones below it, that almost nobody asks for. Child did the arithmetic in 1832, and it still holds. A 3 or 4 pound rack, 4 or 5 cents a pound in her day, and one of the cheapest cuts at any counter now, will make a dinner for 6. You cover it with water, you simmer it low with a few root vegetables until the meat falls clean off the bone, and you serve the broth first as a soup, and the meat second over those vegetables. Della's sister fed her whole family this way through more than one lean Sunday. On the neck bones the fashionable houses in town were paying the butcher to grind up for the dog. She served the broth in the good bowls, and nobody at her table ever knew they were eating the cheapest thing in the case. Number 19. Simmer the picked bones a second time. Now remember that rack from number 20. When the meat is gone, you are not done with it, and this is where most cooks quit too early. Put the bones back in the pot with a bay leaf and whatever vegetable scraps you have been saving in a bag in the cold. The onion skins, the carrot tops, the celery ends, and simmer the whole thing again for another 3/4 of an hour. That second broth is too thin to serve on its own, but it is exactly the liquid you want under a pot of rice or a pot of beans, where it quietly hands over every last bit of flavour those bones had left. Della got 2 full dinners and a pot of good stock out of a single cut most people cook once and throw away. 1 rack, 2 dinners, and the pot pays you twice for it. Number 18. Keep a sack of dried beans like a savings account. Before meat was cheap enough for every table, beans were what carried a family through February. A pound of dried navy beans makes 6 to 8 servings and costs a fraction of a meat supper for the same protein on the plate. The government said as much in a little 1971 bulletin called Money Saving Main Dishes, which you can also read for free. A dish made partly of beans costs less than the same protein made all of meat. I keep a sack of navy beans in my own pantry, the way my mother kept hers and Della kept hers,
and I have never once been sorry it was there. Soak them overnight, simmer them soft, and boil kidney beans hard for the first 10 minutes because they are not safe underdone.
Number 17. Finish the bean pot with an egg.
Here is the trick that keeps a pot of beans from ever looking like a poor supper. In the last 5 minutes, stir a beaten egg right through the pot, or lay a fried egg on top of each bowl and let the yolk run down into the beans. That same 1971 bulletin said it plainly. Add a little egg or a little cheese to a bean dish, and both the quality and the quantity of the protein climb. So you are not just dressing it up, you are genuinely feeding your family better for a few cents more. And the meal stops looking like something you made because you were short, and starts looking like something you made because you wanted it. When nobody at the table can tell a supper was cheap, it has quietly stopped being a hardship and turned into a skill.
Number 16. Stop buying eggs by the dozen and buy them in the flush.
Every farm wife knew eggs are cheapest twice a year, in the early spring and again in the middle and end of September, and that buying them a dozen at a time as you want them is bad economy. Child wrote exactly that in 1832. Buy them when they are cheap and put them down. Even today, egg prices swing a good 20 to 30% between the spring low and the winter high, and the USDA tracks that swing every year, so it is not a thing you have to guess at. An extra flat or two bought at the dip, even just sitting in your own refrigerator, is months of eggs at a price you chose back in April, and not the price the shelf decides to charge you on the cold morning you happen to run out. A fresh, clean, unwashed egg holds a good long while cold, longer than most people think. You will want these eggs again at number 4, so remember where you put them. That is the front of the store. Now come down cellar with me, because buying it right is only half the wisdom. Keeping it right is the other half, and it is the half the modern kitchen forgot completely.
Number 15. Pack your root vegetables in damp sand before winter sets in.
Della never owned a refrigerator. She owned a wooden crate, a bag of clean sand, and Child's 1832 instructions. And she ate carrots in March that went into that crate in October. You trim the tops to 1 inch. You lay 1 inch of barely damp sand in the bottom of the box. You set the carrots and beets and turnips in a single layer, not touching, and you cover them over with more sand, and you keep layering. The sand mimics the cool, damp earth the roots just came out of, and that is the whole reason it works. A 50-pound bag of play sand costs under $5 and keeps 30 or 40 pounds of vegetables sound from October clear to January. That wooden crate was the whole winter vegetable shelf, and it ran on nothing.
Number 14.
Hold that cellar between 35 and 50 degrees. There is exactly one number worth keeping in your head down there, and it is a range. Below 35 and the carrots freeze and turn to mush. Above 50 and they sprout and rot before Christmas. The National War Garden Commission printed it in 1918. Not less than 35, not over 50. Hang a little dial thermometer down there, a few dollars at the hardware store, and on a warm fall day, open a low vent to draw the cold air in and shut the high one so the warm air cannot settle. One number to remember: 35 to 50, and miss it and the whole larder turns to compost on you.
Number 13.
Cool a warm cellar with a wet canvas. If your cellar runs warm in early fall, before the real cold comes down to help you, there is an old farmhouse fix that costs a bucket of water. Hang a piece of canvas wet with cold water near the vent.
and as the water evaporates, it pulls the temperature down a few degrees, just enough to carry your store through a warm September afternoon when the carrots would otherwise start to sweat. It is the very same principle that kept a spring house cold before anyone in the county had ever seen a compressor. The water cools the air as it leaves the cloth, and you wet it again in the morning. A wet cloth doing the work a running motor does now, and it cost you a wet cloth and the minute it took to hang it.
Number 12. Cull the blemished ones before you store a single thing. One bruised potato in the bin will quietly ruin a dozen around it before you ever notice it went bad. So, you spread the whole harvest out on a dry surface, and you go through it piece by piece. Anything cut, bruised, cracked or bug-bitten comes out and goes straight to the table this week, into a soup or a stew. Only the sound, unblemished ones, go into storage. That sorting takes about 10 minutes. Skipping it can cost you a third of the bin come February. Della chose the 10 minutes every single time. Number 11. Eat the small ones first. When you do sort, keep the little roots separate and use them at the table before the big ones. A small carrot or a small potato has less starch held in reserve, so it softens and goes hollow faster than a big one, sitting right next to it. This is the part most people get backward. They eat the big, handsome ones first, because those are the ones that catch the eye. And by the time they get to the little ones in March, the little ones are already gone soft. Della did the opposite on purpose. Eat the small ones first, and save the large ones for February, when there is nothing green left in the world, and you are grateful for every single one of them. Number 10. Keep every bin under 3 bushels. Most people think the fuller the bin, the safer the winter. And the exact opposite is true. A big, deep pile of potatoes looks like abundance, right up until the centre of it heats from its own weight, and you find half of them rotted by Christmas. The 1918 Commission set the limit at 2 or 3 bushels to a bin, no more, because the bigger the bulk, the greater the danger of heating and decay. 3 small slatted crates cost you the same as 1 big barrel, and 3 small crates let you lose one without losing all 3. Number 9. Learn the sweet rot smell and act on it the same day. A cellar should smell earthy. When it starts to smell sweet instead, that sweet smell is potatoes heating and beginning to rot from the inside, and it will not wait for you. The habit is simple, and it saves the whole store. If the cellar smells sweet rather than earthy, you go down and you open every single bin that day, not tomorrow, and you pull whatever has turned before it takes its neighbours with it. Your nose is the cheapest alarm you own, and it never needs a battery. Number 8. Hang the onions dry and never let them see the cellar. Onions are proud vegetables, and they will not share a damp cellar with the roots. Keep them dry and airy, and they last 4 to 6 months for nothing. Put them down in the damp and they rot in weeks. Child said it flat in 1832. Onions should be kept very dry and never carried into the cellar except in the hardest weather. So you cure them a couple of weeks until the skins go papery, and then you braid the tops or drop them in a mesh bag and hang them in the driest corner you have. An attic, a porch, a pantry. Mine have hung in the same mesh bag on the same porch nail for 9 years, and I have not lost one to rot yet. Number 7. Keep potatoes dark and pinch every spring sprout. A bin of potatoes is a whole winter of cheap, filling suppers if you keep it right. First, dig them only after the vines have died back and the skin has set firm enough that it does not rub off under your thumb. Then cure them 10 days in a warm, humid spot
so the little nicks heal over before they ever go in the bin. Keep them in the dark after that, because any light turns them green, and the green is solanine, which is bitter and mildly toxic, so you cut it away deep or you throw that potato out. Store them cool, 38 to 40 degrees, the temperature the old USDA bulletin named back in 1917. And come spring, when they start to sprout, break off every sprout as it shows its head. Child gave that exact instruction in 1832. Sprout them carefully if you want to keep them, and a potato left to grow its sprouts unbothered is a potato feeding the sprout instead of feeding you.
Number 6.
Keep the potatoes and the onions on opposite sides of the cellar.
Here is the pair from number 8 and number 7 together, and they do not get along.
Potatoes and onions stored side by side hurry each other to spoil.
The onions give off moisture and gas that softens the potatoes, and the potatoes return the favour. Della kept hers on opposite sides of the cellar, and neither one went soft until spring.
Potatoes and onions are like a few couples I have known. They do a great deal better in separate rooms.
Number 5. Bury a winter of cabbages in a hole in the ground. Here is number 5, the hole in the ground I promised you. Della did not own a refrigerator big enough for a season of cabbages, and she lost none of them.
She dug a shallow pit out back of the Tipton place, about a foot deep, set the firm heads in it upside down,
Packed dry straw around them, and covered the whole thing with 6 or 8 inches of earth with a stake to mark it in the snow.
Child wrote in 1832 that cabbages put into a hole in the ground keep well all winter and come out hard, fresh and sweet in the spring, and that many farmers keep their potatoes the same way. The ground does for a cabbage exactly what that sand crate at number 15 does for a carrot. It is a free cold room, and all you have to do is dig it.
Number 4. Put summer's extra eggs down in lime water. Now, those eggs you bought cheap in the flush back at number 16.
In the days before refrigerators, when the hens laid more than a family could eat, this is how they kept the surplus. And I am going to give you the honest truth about it, which is more than the shelf ever does. You dissolve coarse salt and unslaked lime in a pail of water, let it settle clear, and submerge only perfect uncracked eggs in a crock,
in a cold place. Child reported eggs kept perfectly sweet this way.
Now the honest part. This is a genuine piece of history, not a modern food safety recommendation. The yolks redden a little. One cracked egg spoils the whole batch. And the sensible aim today is a few months, not 3 years. I tell you the method, and I tell you the caveats, because you are grown, and you can weigh a heritage practice for yourself.
Number 3. Cut your herbs in blossom and never buy a jar again. Timing is the entire secret to dried herbs that actually taste like something.
Child put it in one line in 1832. Herbs should be gathered while in blossom, because if they are left until they go to seed, the strength goes into the seed and out of the leaf. So, you cut your mint and sage and thyme just as the flowers open, in the morning, after the dew has dried. You tie them in loose little bundles and hang them upside down out of the sun for a week or 2. And then you strip the leaves into a jar with a tight lid. A packet of seed is $1 or 2. The same volume of dried herbs on the supermarket rack costs 10 times that or more. Della never once paid the 10.
Number 2. Write the date on every jar
the day you put it by. Everyone is sure they will remember which jar is oldest. Nobody ever does. An unmarked shelf is how a family gets to February and finds vinegar where they were expecting peaches. So the day you store a thing, you take a pencil. The very same grease pencil Della carried at the market in that cold open. And you write on the jar what is in it and the day you put it by. Then you shelve the new behind the old and you always pull from the front. The USDA wrote that system down in 1977. Della had it without the pamphlet. Name it, date it, rotate it. It costs you the 30 seconds it takes to write, and an unmarked jar is a jar you are going to waste. Number 1. Before you ever reach for the meat, price the eggs first. This is the habit Della practiced before all the others, the one that decides your grocery bill before you have spent a dime, and it is the plainest thing in the world. She had no loyalty to the meat case. Some weeks supper was eggs, and she never once called that going without. She called it good sense. The government even gave you the exact rule in that 1971 bulletin. Eggs are the cheaper protein, when 8 large eggs cost less than a pound of meat with some bone and fat in it, like a rump roast, or when a dozen eggs cost less than a pound of lean meat like round steak. So you stand at the counter, you look at the price of the eggs and the price of the meat, and you build the supper around whichever one is cheaper that Tuesday. That is the whole secret. And it is not really a secret at all. It is a woman with a grease pencil and a folded slip of paper deciding the price before the store gets a chance to decide it for her. That slip of paper is still the whole thing. Della is gone, but the slip is in my coat pocket now, in my own hand, and the store is exactly the same store it always was, still moving the pretty things to the front and hiding the honest number at the bottom of the tag. Every habit I gave you today is one small refusal to let it. You buy the cup they keep out of sight. You read the little number. You put the eggs down cheap and pull them out in December. You keep the crate of sand and the pit of cabbages and the dated jars, and you waste nothing that came into the house. Do half of these and you will feel the difference in a month. Do all of them and you will feel it the way Della felt it, which is not as poverty, but as a quiet kind of freedom the supermarket would very much rather you never found out you could have. Tell me one down in the comments. What is the one staple you buy in bulk and put by? And where in your house do you keep it? Show the rest of us your system, because somebody watching tonight is going to save real money on the strength of your habit. And that is exactly how this wisdom got passed down in the first place. One kitchen telling the next. This is Granny Pearl, and I will leave the porch light on for you.